Some people say that crypto is the new gold. Well, I call this my crypto gold.
I love gold.
I'd like to tell you a little story today about how I came to possess these two smaller denomination gold American Eagles, one a half ounce American Eagle, the other a quarter ounce. Now, purchasing half ounce and quarter ounce is not typical for me, and I don't plan to do that in general. But the way that I came about purchasing these two, I think is kind of funny. So back in, I think, 2019, when I made my last metal purchase before 2021, the way that I was making the purchase was to put some Bitcoin into a wallet and then use that as a transaction with JM Bullion. And that's because JM Bullion would charge me less for crypto than for a credit card. You could, of course, use a wire transfer, but to get even lower numbers or prices. But a wire transfer typically costs $50. It depends on your bank and what your arrangement is, but most accounts at most banks, you're probably looking at $30 to $50 for a wire transfer, which then kind of defeats the purpose. So I was using Bitcoin. Well, the interesting thing about Bitcoin in 2019 is that it was worth a lot less than Bitcoin in 2020 and 2021. I don't know what the price of one Bitcoin was back then. Maybe one of you can go look it up in the history and post it down below in the comments. But I would guess, I don't know, maybe $6,000 or $8,000 a coin. Now, obviously, the reason that I had the Bitcoin was to spend it on a JM Bullion purchase. But of course, whatever I purchased, it didn't entirely empty that account. I had some volume of Bitcoin where I spent most of it, but there was a little bit left over because the amount of Bitcoin that I purchased on the market was not exactly the cost of what I purchased from JM Bullion. This is a long way of saying that in 2021, it occurred to me that I probably had a little tiny bit of Bitcoin left over in that account. And I did. What was originally probably $150 worth or something of Bitcoin that I left in that account in 2019, it was suddenly $1,600 worth of Bitcoin when I came back to it in 2021. And now that was to frame that in terms of the Bitcoin price, it had just hit the first high at 56,000. Bitcoin would then go on to drop back down into the 40s, then come back to the 50s, then up to 60. And now we are actually on a pretty strong downward trend for Bitcoin that has it sitting in the high 40s. But having it hit that new high around 56,000, and when I realized that I had $1,600 worth sitting in that account, I immediately took that Bitcoin and purchased some actual gold. Now, I'm sure a lot of people would say, that's crazy. You should hold on to it. It's going to be $1 million a coin. I don't know if it is or isn't. The funny thing is, I was using Bitcoin for what it was actually intended to do, which is transact, to be a currency, to be a coin. But everybody these days just wants to hodl. Well, okay, you go hodl, but I'm going to buy more gold. Now, interestingly, in this particular instance, I didn't purchase through JM Bullion. I purchased through SD Bullion. And that's because they had a bit lower of a premium at the time. Unfortunately, it was a pretty poor experience purchasing from SD Bullion. And I'll just mention this to all of you as a heads up for those of you who have not purchased from these online dealers. My experience with SD Bullion, and of course, this is a time where there are a lot of shortages, no doubt. But they said, it might take 5 to 10 business days to get your order shipped. That's fine, no big deal. The problem was 30 days later, I still hadn't received either of these gold coins that I had paid for, nor had I received any correspondence as to the status of the order. So I emailed SD Bullion asking what was going on, never got a response, then emailed a second time, and finally they acknowledged that there was a problem and that they were going to go fix it, and then they eventually did ship it. But it took over a month, and it required that I had to reach out to them, and I had to reach out to them twice to get a response. And when we're talking about purchases of gold, purchases that almost always sit in the thousands of dollars range, that's just not the kind of customer service that I expect. And it's not really the customer service that I'm willing to tolerate. I'll probably give SD Bullion one more chance. And maybe this was a total fluke. Maybe next time it'll be great. But I don't ever want to worry that the $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 that I send one of these companies might disappear. And it got a little too close to that point in this case. If they hadn't responded to the second email, at that point we would have been 40 days after the order, 2 non-responsive emails. At that point, what do? You probably have to reach out to some kind of either police agency or someone that can go force the issue with that company. And that's just not a position that I want to be in. So again, may have been a total fluke, but it did take well over a month to get this order fulfilled, when originally they just said, 5 to 10 days plus the shipping time. That was not at all accurate, and I did not find it particularly easy to get a hold of them when the order never showed up. Nonetheless, this was still a pretty enjoyable purchase because it felt like it came for free. Not technically, of course, but I didn't expect those gains in Bitcoin when I left a little bit of that crypto in my account. And so it was almost like I pulled the lever on a little gold slot machine and out came a few small coins. I don't have any intention of purchasing half-ounce or quarter-ounce gold coins in the future. Again, it all depends on circumstance. Maybe there will be some reason to do so, but other than that, I expect to only purchase 1-ounce gold coins like the ones you've seen in other videos. But that is the story about what I call my crypto gold. As always, if you have any comments on that, or if you've had any good or bad experiences with SD Bullion or the other online dealers, post those comments below. Let me know what your experiences are like and how you think about the issue. But with that, as always, please like and subscribe if you're enjoying the content and if you want to keep up with the stack. I am Scrooge McStacker. Keep on stacking.